Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
Episode number 75 of Weather Weekly. Good to be with you here. We're back after a nice week of vacation. Didn't do a whole lot. Just had some days off with the kids. It is summer after all, and we just enjoyed some pool time and time together. And wish we could say we spent a lot of time outside, but whew, was it hot last week? My goodness. Temperatures into the 90s for a lot of the week and dew points into the 70s, not even just the 70s, but mid 70s. That was gross. It was awful. But it was good to have the week off. Special thanks to Stephen Deanna. What a great podcast he put out last week. Nobody does it better than Stephen, especially when it comes to those historical events. Very detail-oriented. Quick shout-out to Stephen, too. I mean, you ever get a chance to talk to him, he can do that with historical weather events, but he's even more impressive when it comes to sports. That guy can just rattle off a bunch of sports statistics right off the top of his head. So dude is a wealth of knowledge, and so I appreciate him stepping in a pinch. I kind of asked him at the last minute if he would fill in for me to help me out on my week off to do the podcast, and he did an excellent job. So thank you, Stephen, for jumping in. Today's going to be a short podcast, but I think it's going to be an important one. I did want to kind of focus in on not only the heat that we've been kind of bearing the brunt of last week, and then again here, we're in the heart of another heat wave in central Indiana, but we are running very dry, and we're starting to get some signs that I guess the big question is, could we be entering into a drought? It's been so good for a lot of the farmers so far. The corn, the soybeans, for the most part, have been looking pretty good because, we had the rain when we needed it and had some dry time when we needed it too. But now the heat is just sucking up a lot of the moisture in the soil, and we're not adding much to it here. And so there may be some signs that we could be entering into kind of a drought stage. We're going to talk more about that next here on Weather Weekly.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
It is episode number 75 on Weather Weekly. Good to be with you here as we are almost done with the month of June. Technically, this is the last full week of the month of June. We won't do the new July podcast until 2 weeks from now. We'll still have kind of a partial week for June next week. And then we get into the 4th of July holiday, and then we're back at it here as we move into the month of July. This is going to be a short podcast here, but I did want to touch on a few things here. We're coming off pretty hot stretch last week when we had Steven filling in, hit the mid-90s, hottest of the year so far. We are continuing to kind of build on that again this week. I'm looking quickly here at some of the numbers from last week. We posted a 91, 93, 92, 93. So 93 on the 16th is the hottest so far. We opened this week on Monday with a high of 88 in Indianapolis. And I can tell you right now, it felt every bit of that and maybe even more so. It was hot. It wasn't super humid. but it was hot. It was definitely hot. Obviously, we're recording this on Tuesday. Tuesday and Wednesday are supposed to be the hottest days of the week. Mid-90s, I think, are very much in reach. So we could see the hottest numbers either Tuesday or Wednesday. That's the 21st or the 22nd. We did bring in the start of summer on the calendar at 5:13 a.m. Tuesday morning, the 21st with the summer solstice. That means we're at the longest daylight of the season. Our daylight actually will start to get progressively very gradually shorter now as we start moving through the next several months here. But still a lot of daylight out there as we roll through the month of July and into August, and you see more of a significant decline in the fall months, September and October. So the heat obviously is a big issue. We have not had any measurable precipitation since the 12th. So that puts us at, technically we had a trace reported on the 13th. I'm not going to count that. So you factor in from the 12th. Let's see. The 13th was dry. 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20. No rain. That's 8 days. And we're going to stay that way at least for the 21st, we know, is going to be a dry day. So that's 9 days in a row. That is now the longest dry stretch that we have had for this year. Now, it goes nowhere near any records, but it is significant because, and if I take you back to the beginning of the month, okay, take you back to the beginning of the month, we said that June is typically the wettest month of the year. All right. Here in central Indiana, typically getting close to, I believe, I'll double check this here real quick, but I believe it's a little over 6 inches of rainfall that we're supposed to pick up for the entire year. We're checking up on this real quick. I'm sorry, not 6, nearly 5, about 4.95 inches. So still, it's by far the wettest month that we typically get in the year here in central Indiana. So with that in mind, looking at the month to date, our total precipitation so far is only 1.15 inches of rainfall. 1.15 inches. Normal value should be 3.25. We're down. We're at a deficit over 2 inches of rainfall now. When you're in that 1 inch deficit, it's, you want to keep an eye on it. 2 inches deficit, especially this time of year where you're really in the heat of growing season, right? We're not close to harvest. This is really where you bulk up the growing season, though. Man, we're missing out on that rain. Last year at this time, we had just over 4.75 inches of rainfall, just to kind of put it in perspective for you. So again, running at an extreme deficit here, 2 inches and counting. Because there's not really, and we'll talk about this after the break, there's not really any good rain chances that are going to help us out here in the near term. So we've brought this up before, and we really haven't run into many problems since I guess I've started this podcast a little about a year and a half ago. But looking at some of the forecasted climate data now, the drought monitor comes out once a week, every Thursday. Right now, we technically we're not under anything significant. There's, I'd say up around Warren County, I think, Benton County, it's classified as abnormally dry. And then down in the southern parts of the state, it's also classified as abnormally dry. We're talking closer to the Louisville area and then closer to the Evansville area, okay? So that's not technically classified in a drought. There are also parts of Illinois, northern Illinois, up around Rockford, eastern Illinois, around Champaign-Urbana, Decatur, not quite to Springfield, but pretty close. So we're starting to see that expand a little bit. And so that gives us kind of a pause for concern. The seasonal outlook for the summer, This is valid from June 16th to September 30th. This was released on the 16th, showing that drought development is likely for pretty much all of Illinois and kind of the western quarter of Indiana. Not all of Indiana, but the western quarter. I would not be shocked if we don't see that maybe expand a little bit farther, Ace, considering where we stand right now in terms of our moisture value. It's not great. And it's likely something that's probably going to build, that we're going to be seeing some pretty good lack of rain chances over at least the next 7 to 8 days. But it may even go beyond that too. So something to be concerned with. So what this will do is, it could kickstart us into a drought. And here's the problem. And I've mentioned this in podcasts before. Even though we've been very fortunate over the last, I'd say, couple of years that we haven't fallen into this pattern. But when you start getting into kind of a drought pattern, it's really, really hard to break it. It's really hard to break it. You don't have moisture to kind of feed, into kind of a cycle, if you will. And so you're very dry. And so that's going to play a role in temperatures a little bit. You're probably going to be running a little bit hot. You're not going to have the moisture content to kind of cool things down. And so you start getting into a situation where, say, we get out of this month, we will wrap up the month of June next Thursday. Let's assume that we're not going to get any real significant measurable rain between now and then. Okay, I know I've got a few chances in the 8-day, but they're spotty at best. Spotty at best for this week and heading into the weekend. Tough to tell how next week's going to play out, but it doesn't look great because we're probably going to be cranking up the heat again. So you start getting into a situation where you're going to be running probably at a 3-inch deficit plus. All right, that's pretty significant for what should be the wettest month of the year. And then we move into July, and we're kind of carrying that over for the first part of July, which there are some hints, and I'll talk more about this in the forecast after the break, but there's some hints that the longer term, it doesn't look optimal for good rain chances, okay? You run into the problem now that what you are hoping for is a drought-busting rain. And usually, those kind of rains only come from tropical systems. So, we have to talk a little bit later in the year because, usually this time of year, you're kind of getting things that are rolling through the Atlantic, which it's been exceptionally quiet so far, thanks to a lot of Saharan dust, keeping the air pretty dry, pretty stable. Where we'd see storms developing. So it's usually more so in August when we start to see the Gulf system start to ramp up. And that's where our rain from tropical systems are going to originate from. Sure, you can have some systems that maybe roll over the Atlantic, they cross over Florida or kind of maybe bypass Florida, they go into the Gulf, and then they feed into Texas or Louisiana and get fed up into the Midwest. But that's kind of the situation that we may, and I'm still getting a little ahead of the game. We may get lucky here. And we may get a few, rounds of rain, but it just does not appear that we're going to be in a setup where we're going to be getting, widespread rain anytime soon. So I'm just kind of forewarning you on where we could be standing here as we go over the next couple of weeks, because there are a lot of signs here that signal that we could be not only running hot, maybe not mid 90s hot, but upper 80s, low 90s. That's still plenty hot enough. That's well above average for the next few weeks, at least next couple of weeks. And there's just not real great chances. There's some pretty strong signals that we're going to be running pretty dry. So tough to kind of make up that deficit. I mean, obviously we don't want to make the deficit all up at once. But even trying to gradually get there, it just doesn't look like it may be in the cards. We're going to be kind of what I would call nickel and diming it in spots where you're going to be getting maybe some isolated downpours, but it's not going to be a widespread type of rain. So just something that you need to keep an eye out on. Your lawns, I know, are probably already getting pretty crunchy. You're going to continue to need to water those, your flowers, farmers. I know you're probably doing okay, but you may be getting kind of at the tail end where you're going to be needing some water here in some short order. Pretty soon. So just something to kind of keep an eye on there. So we'll keep an update on that as the heat kind of builds on here for the next couple of weeks, which we are keeping an eye on. Could be the hottest so far this season for this week. And we'll see if we get any relief from the heat or if we have any rain chances to talk about. That's coming up in my forecast next on Weather Weekly. Here's a look at the forecast here for the week of June 20th. And again, we're in the midst of another heat wave across much of central Indiana. We're not going to get a lot of relief here, both from the heat or the humidity. We'll dial back for the lack of rain chances. We will, however, dial back the humidity just a bit here as we go into the latter half of the week. I have numbers sliding into the upper 80s for Thursday and Friday. The humidity a little more manageable. It does kind of creep up for the weekend. I don't think it's exceptionally high, but it's noticeable. I've got highs in the low 90s on Saturday, highs in the upper 80s on Sunday. I do have some very slight rain chances both days this weekend. I wouldn't bet on it. Kind of slim pickings here, but there's some signs. A few of you may be able to get in on a little bit of rain for the weekend. Monday looks a little better, a little more manageable, low to mid 80s. I think we'll hover in the mid 80s for Tuesday. It looks like midweek, so the 29th, the 30th, and then heading into the start of July next Friday, we're looking at numbers into the upper 80s again. So well above average temperatures, and we're going to be feeling the heat as we start gearing up, it looks like, for that 4th of July extended holiday weekend. I believe the 4th is on a Monday, so that'll be an extended weekend coming up. Looks like it's going to be pretty toasty for that. The 8 to 14 day outlook, and I kind of went through that a little bit, parts of it. No surprises here, especially coming off of what we were just talking about. Pretty strong signal of above average temperatures and an extremely strong signal for below average precipitation. So not good, not good. We're building on that deficit even more, I think, over the coming weeks here. This takes us all the way into really to the 4th of July holiday. So we'll see how that kind of pans out. They do have the July outlook out. And that one looks like a decent signal for above average temperatures and also a decent signal for below average precipitation. So again, not looking awesome here as we head into July, which is one of typically the hotter months of the year. So that's the forecast. Wish I had some better news for you. Sometimes, like I said, you get stuck in some of these patterns. It's hard to break. Especially when you're talking about lack of precipitation and whatnot. So here we go. We'll see how it plays out. All right. Thanks for joining me here for episode number 75. We always appreciate your time and your following along on the podcast. If you'd like to hear any subject matter, you can shoot me an email, marcus.bailey@wishtv.com. You can also reach me out on social media at Marcus Bailey on Twitter and at Marcus Bailey Weather on Facebook and Instagram as well. My thanks to you so much for hanging out with us for another week. We hope to see you back here next week as well. And while you're here, make sure to check out all the other great podcasts, all part of the All Indiana Podcast Network. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.